In last 5 years span Sri Lanka travelled to England 3 times. In 1979 and 1981 they had 2 first-class tours. But they were not at the full member status at that time. After earning the full member status, they travelled to England in 1983, but it was for World Cup. So, 1984 Summer Tour is Sri Lanka's first tour in England including a test match. The two countries met in Sri Lanka's inaugural test match in Colombo in February 1982, England winning by 7 wickets, but this is their first test in England. It is also the first time that new test match opposition has been entertained in England since Pakistan's first visit in 1954.
One for a wait for him. Comes in now, bowls, and this one tucked way down, and that's the first one.
Sri Lanka was having a rough series against New Zealand back at home before this. Kiwis comfortably defeats host 2-0 in Test and 2-1 in one-day internationals. Ranjan Madugala, including one half-century, scored 242 runs. Opening bowler Vino Thanjan took 16 wicket in the series. From New Zealand point of view, John Reid was the highest run getter. He scored 243 including massive 180 runs innings. Richard Hadley was the star of the show. With bat he grabbed 75 runs and in the series he took 23 wickets including 2 5-wicket hauls and 1 10-wicket haul in the match. England's situation is even terrible. West Indies mark a complete blackwash series in their main summer event. It was a shameful 5-0 series lost to host England. Alan Lamb scored 3 centuries and scored 386 runs and Ian Botham scored 347 with 3 50s. They are the main run getters in English camp. Again with the ball Botham took 19 and Paul Alott took 14.
The moment it left the bat. That's it. Beautiful shot, square on the offside. 4 runs for Alan Lamb. Takes him through to a very, very well-deserved 100. He's had to battle hard for these runs, 103, been in there a long, long time, but I can't recall him given a chance, and that's quite an accomplishment.
Altogether England brought 21 players to meet West Indies' challenge.
Dear me. Oh, I didn't like the look of that at all. Just got him on the side of the head, I would think, where that protective.
On the other hand, it was a carnival for West Indies players. Greenidge, with mammoth 2 double hundreds, scored 572 runs. Gomez scored 400.
That's 4 runs.
That's 4. Short, hooked away, no bother at all there for Greenidge. So Pocock, ball again. Greenidge on 197. That's the one he's looking for. That's going to bring him 200. Davies has sprinted the second. He's going to turn round now. Here he comes. Up goes the bat, and Gordon Greenidge, for the second time in this series, has gone on to a double century. Simply a magnificent performance, and Pocock the first to shake him by the hand. Really has developed into certainly one of the best players in the business. So exactly 200.
With the ball, West Indies fast bowlers rip off the English batting lineup. Joel Garner took 29 and Marshall took 24.
Duchess has made tremendous ground there to catch Chris Broad.
And he's given him this time. So he goes LBW. Disappointing end, because he really outplayed jolly well up to then. He goes for 23, and it's another wicket for Marshall. 183 now for 3 England. And he's gone, beautifully caught. Harper again taking a catch there.
There it is.
Sri Lanka initially announced 16-man squad to play an England tour. This team consists of 3 opening batsmen. Siddharth Wedamuni played 10 test matches and scored 616 runs with a century. Amal Silva played a single test match so far. And the youngster Marlon Vongagd in his debut series. He is one of the 3 school students represents in this tour. To strengthen the middle order, Sri Lankan selectors brought up 5 middle order batsmen. Skipper Duleep Mendes played 9 matches and scored 521 with 2 centuries. Vice-captain Roy Dias was the highest test run getter thus far for Sri Lanka. He scored 677 in his 8 games with 2 centuries. Highest scorer in previous New Zealand tour, Ranjan Madugal, played 11 matches, scored 673 in his 8 games. Sri Lankan young left-hander, Arjuna scored 437 in his 8 games. Also another young school cricketer Ravinda De Silva was called for the side for the first time. 4 medium-fast bowlers were included to the side. Sri Lankan ace paceman Ashantha Damel played 6 games and grabbed 25 wickets. In 1983 World Cup he took 17 wickets, and finished the series as the second highest wicket taker. Vino Thanjan took 24 in his 5 games. He was the best among wickets for Sri Lanka in last series against New Zealand. Ravi took 17 wickets in his 7 games. Initially Ramesh Ratnayak was selected, but shoulder injury cost him the series. To fill his gap, Sri Lankan brought another new face Anusha Samaranayak to high squad. Anusha never played for a test or a one-day international for Sri Lankan before. In addition to the pace attack, Sri Lankan camp consists with 3 spinners. DS De Silva, the former Sri Lankan captain, is their spin king. He played for 11 test matches thus far and took 35 wickets. He is in the side from the inaugural test match. Off-spinner Mumtaz Yusuf called for the side, he too never wear Sri Lankan colours before. Also last schoolboy cricket player Don Anuraziri, a young left-arm bowler, bring to the side for the first time. To keep the wickets initially Amal Silva and Gaida Alwies was selected. Due to the performance with the bat, obvious choice was to give the slot to Amal. But Guy did a remarkable job behind the stumps and in front of the wicket during 1983 World Cup as well. Opposed to Amal's 1 test appearance, Guy played 5 games so far and took 9 catches and a stumping in test. But unfortunately, during the tour during the second game, Guy was ruled out because of 2 broken fingers in his left hand, and sent back home on August 23. So, selectors brought Brendan Kurapua, who was part in 1983 World Cup squad, as the replacement. He was not given an opportunity in Test arena yet, but played 12 one-day internationals till date for Sri Lanka. For the tour Mr. Neil Shanmugam continued as the team manager. He played for SSC during 60s and 70s as an off-spinner. Mr. Muthueli Rajasingham was appointed as his assistant manager. Mr. D.V. Smith was the coach of the squad and Mr. G.G.A. Solex was appointed as the official scorer. Altogether this tour consists of 10 games. Sri Lanka had to play a test, 1 List A one-day game and 8 first-class games. They starting the tour games on July 25 facing Nottinghamshire at Cleethorpes. Soon after that game they are meeting Surrey at Oval on July 28. After few days rest again they entering to the pitch on August 4 for the game against Gloucestershire at Cheltenham. Next game was at Southampton vs Hampshire on August 8. After a one-day break next on August 11 they are playing with Kent at Canterbury. Only List A one-day game will be playing on August 16 at Arundel against Duchess of Norfolk's 11. They are falling back to long version soon after the game and playing against Sussex at Hove on August 18. The main event starts after that practice session. The only test will play at Lord's from August 23 till 28. Sri Lankan team will spend 34 days in England before start their test match. After the main event warm-down games starts. On August 29 they meet Warwickshire at Edgbaston. And the last game will play in September 2 against DB Closes 11 at Scarborough. This concludes the tour. For Sri Lankan players, Wetamuni, Madugal, Damel, and Ravinda flew to England on July 7, few weeks earlier than the team, to practice at the MCC Indoor School at Lord's. Rest of the team flew on July 19 midnight from Katunayaki to London. On July 25 till July 27 they marched to Cleethorpes pitch to meet Nottinghamshire in their first 3-day game. In the first game they decided to open the innings between Sidath and Von Hocht. Amal to play as one-down batsman followed by Dias, Mendes, and the bowling clan consist of DS De Silva, Ravi, Ashantha, John and Yusuf. Guy will keep the wickets. Home team Nottinghamshire batted first and they scored 311 for 8 in 82 overs. 3 50s have been scored. Paul Johnson and skipper John Birch scored 80 each and Derek Randall scored 52. John, again became the top wicket taker, and he took 3 and Asantha took 2. In reply Sri Lanka all out for 199 in 56 overs. Gaida Alwies scored first 50 of the tour and he ended up scoring 74 runs. None of the batsmen able to score 50. Sidath was the second highest scorer with 39. Eddie Hemmings wrap up Sri Lankan innings by taking 7 wickets. In the second innings, Nottinghamshire scored 210 for 6 in 59 overs. Tim Robinson scored 115, the first century against Sri Lanka in this summer. Not much luck to rest of the batsmen. DS and Asnatha took 2 wickets each. So, Sri Lanka were given 323 runs target. But they scored 123 for 2 in 42 overs. Youngster Von Hocht almost reached his 50, but unfortunately out at 43. So, the first game went draw. A good start for Sri Lankan team. Another thing to note is that 6 players suffered from food poisoning after an evening meal during this match. Second first-class 3-day game scheduled to start play on July 28 till 30th at Oval against Surrey. From Sri Lankan camp, they made 2 changes. They left Amal Silva and Mumtaz Yusuf and brought up Arjuna Ranatunga and Ranjan Madugal back to the side. Home team batted first and in 71.4 overs, they scored 250 for 8. Surrey captain Jeff Howarth had a wonderful series in Sri Lanka with his New Zealand team. So, he is familiar to the Sri Lankan bowling attack. Howarth scored 163 with 2 50s in 3 test series and he took that advantage forward and scored 74 runs here. Needham scored 54 and he built 113 for the first wicket with Howarth. Damel Toole 3 wickets. And one unfortunate incident happened. Sri Lankan wicket-keeper Guy got himself hurt and had to leave the field with 2 broken fingers. Sri Lankan innings was bit disaster. They were bowled out for 194 in 43.3 overs. Only 3 bowlers were used by Surrey skipper, and they took all wickets. Sri Lankan skipper Mendes scored 67 not out and Ranjan scored 47. Also, Damel out-hit wicket. In the second innings, Surrey scored 208 for 8 in 58.4 overs. Vino Thanjan took first 5 wicket hauls for Sri Lanka. None of the batters able to cross 50 runs mark. Butcher scored 49. Sri Lanka were given 265 runs target. But Guy already out from the match. And make things worse, Ashantha Damel too cannot play due to injury, which left 9 players to go for the target. But Surrey on the game from the beginning. They do not leave any batsmen to settle and bowled Sri Lanka out for 105 in 33.1 overs. Leaving them a massive 159 runs victory. So, bit of problem arises in Sri Lankan camp on their sustainability. They already lost 1 game to a first-class team. Team Sri Lanka came to Cheltenham to meet Gloucestershire for their third 3-day game on August 4th till 7th. They had to drop wicket-keeper Gaida Alwies and opening bowler Ashantha Damel due to injuries. Also they rested Marlon Von Hocht on this game. So, they brought back young Aravinda to playing 11 along with Amal Silva and Mumtaz Yusuf to the side. Home team batted for the 3rd in the row. In 88 overs, Gloucestershire made a solid 278 for 4 in their first innings. No century scored, but 3 batsmen were able to score 50+ runs. Simon Wooten scored 97 and Paul Romains scored 83. In reply, Sri Lanka too came with solid start. Sidath and Amal put 190 for the first wicket, then Sidath and Ranjan put unbeaten 96 for the second wicket. All 3 batsmen scored 50 runs. Sidath marked the first century as a Sri Lankan batsman in the summer and he scored 123 not out. Amal misses his century but he scored solid 91. This is the best innings so far for Sri Lanka in the summer and they batted good 93 overs. Gloucestershire's second innings last only 41.2 overs. At stumps they were 116 for 6. John delivered a superb spell and he grabbed another 5-wicket haul and ended up for 6 for 58. Since 3 days over, Sri Lanka not got time to start their second innings. It was a good comeback after loss against Surrey. So, the match ended up with a draw. 4th first class of the tour. Sri Lanka came to South England, Southampton to play with Hampshire. Match scheduled to play on August 8 to August 10. Sri Lanka made 4 changes. They rested DS De Silva, Vino Thanjan, Sidath Wetthimuni, and Mumtaz Yusuf. Don Anuraziri, Asantha Damel, Marlon Von Hocht, and Anusha Samaranayek came as the replacements. It was good to see Damel came out from the injury. This is the first time Anusha and youngster Don Anuraziri was given an opportunity. Again, home team batted first. Robin Smith played a wonderful 100. He scored 132 and helped Hampshire to reach to 312 for 6 in 78.2 overs. Majority of wickets taken by the part-timers. Arjuna took 2 and Duchess took 1. In reply, Sri Lanka scored 336 for 9 in 89.1 overs. 3 batsmen scored 50s. Youngster Aravinda was the top scorer with 75 runs. That is his first 50 for Sri Lanka. In addition to that, Duleep and Arjuna scored 64 and 50 respectively. Rifer and Cowley took 3 each. In the second innings, again Hampshire scored 291 for 4 in 68.5 overs. Opener Smith scored 103 not out. Robin Smith scored dashing 97 and he misses his second century of the match by 3 runs. Sri Lanka was given a target of 268 runs. But within the timeline they were able to score only 102 for 3 in 45 overs. None were able to score a 50. All fallen 3 wickets taken by Maru. So, with another outstanding performance, match ended up in a draw. Fifth first-class game was scheduled to play at Canterbury between Kent and Sri Lanka. This was played at August 11th till 13th. Sri Lanka made 5 changes. They rested Anuraziri, Damel, Madugal, Ratnayak, and Silva and called upon DS De Silva, John, Wetamuni, Yusuf. In addition to them, Brendan Kurupia was selected for the first time. He joined the squad lately to fill the slot of Guy. Ranjan had to step down because he was given a black eye by a drunk who attacked him. For the first time, Sri Lanka batted first. In 92.5 overs, then scored 340 for 7. Arjuna scored a century this time. Aravinda scored another 50. Masters took 2 wickets. Marlon out for a hit wicket. In reply, Kent got themselves all out for 182 in 71.4. None was able to score 50. Simon Hinks was the highest score with 36. All wickets have been divided among DS and John. Both took 5-wicket hauls. Due to the margin, Kent was asked to follow on. But this time they took the challenge easily. Their innings spans for 120 overs. At the end they scored 420 for 5. Derek Aslett scored the first double hundred of the series. Benson and Johnson scored 50s. Anushka took 4 wickets. Finally closing time came. Sri Lanka not got time to bat. Sri Lanka had a good chance to go for a win, but finally it ended up in a draw. Only list a one-day game was the next in the schedule. Sri Lankan team reaches beautiful Arundel to play against Duchess of Norfolk's 11 on August 16th. The Duchess of Norfolk's 11 is a scratch cricket team. It was originally named as 16th Duke, but after his death in 1975 the team plays his widow's name. This tradition starts since 1952. A tourist team was given a one-day fixer at Arundel Castle. The team has played largely of country players not involved in other games, mixed with recently retired internationals. This is Duchess of Norfolk's 11's second game in this summer. They already lost to West Indies by 64 runs. They were able to restrict mighty West Indies for 140. But they were not able to take the pace attack and got themselves all out for 74 in just 22.2 overs. For this event, Sri Lanka selects Wetamuni and Kurupia to open the innings, followed by strong middle order consists of Madugal, Duchess, skipper Mendes, young Arjuna, and Aravinda. From strength in the bowling department they brought Damel, DS, Ravi, and John. Duchess of Norfolk's 11 batted first and in 50 overs they scored 216 for 6. Gladwin was the top scorer with 57 runs. DS De Silva delivered a superb spell, and he took 4 wickets for 31 runs. In reply, Sri Lanka had some hard time. They start to lose wickets in regular intervals. Brendan kept hold one end steady and he scored a 50. He was the top scorer of the match by hitting 58. So at the 5th ball of the last over, Sri Lanka passes the winning margin after losing 9 wickets, which gave them first victory of the season by 1 wicket. Team Sri Lanka reached to Hove to play their 6th and final warm-up 3-day game before the test. This match, scheduled to play against Sussex on August 18th till 20th, Sri Lanka made 5 changes from their last 3-day encounter with Kent. They brought back Don Anuraziri, Ashantha Damel, Ranjan Madugal, Ravi Ratnayak, and Amal Silva back to playing 11. And rested DS, De Silva, Vinod and John, Brendan Kurupia, Marlon von Hocht, and Mumtaz Yusuf. Sri Lanka batted first and in 60.4 overs they all out for 193 runs. Siddharth batted beautifully and scores 73. Young Aravinda marks his 3rd consecutive 50. This young man is knocking the test door badly now. None was able to go beyond at least 20 run marks apart from these two gentlemen. Wells took 4 Sri Lankan wickets. Sussex came strongly in their innings. They scored massive 345 for 6 in 106.2 overs. Paul Parker scored a gigantic innings of 181. He was short just 12 runs to match Sri Lankan first innings team total. Tony Greig's brother Ian made 50. Asnatha came to the form, which is a good sign, and he grabs 4 wickets. Sri Lanka mixed their batting lineup in the second innings. They promote Ravi to open the innings with Amal. Ravi took that advantage and scores 66, the highest in the innings. Arjuna scored 46 and Ranjan 27. Wells and Greig took 3 each and they bowled out Sri Lanka for 235 and 84.4 overs. Since Sri Lanka batted till last hours of the third day, Sussex was not got an opportunity to start their second innings. That concludes the warm-up session. Next item on the schedule is the main event. A big test at home of cricket, the Lords. Let's see how that game has been progress in our next episode.